The office was silent, polished marble gleaming under dim lights, when her voice cut through the air like a secret too dangerous to speak. "Do you think we could start right here?" The building was a different creature at night. Daylight polished its glass walls into symbols of authority, but after hours, it breathed quieter, slower. Hallways stretched in long, amber shadows, polished marble catching faint glimmers from recessed lights overhead. The silence wasn't empty, it was watchful, like the building itself was holding its breath. And in that silence, Dante Carter moved. He was methodical in his steps, the rubber soles of his boots pressing softly against the tiles. A cart trailed behind him, stocked with cleaners, cloths, and tools, though he needed little more than his hands. Strong hands, calloused from years of work, patient in ways the world rarely bothered to notice. He had perfected invisibility, an art learned not from training but from survival. Eyes down, voice low, always stepping aside just before someone else took up space. He was there every night but rarely seen, a shadow among gleaming surfaces, yet he noticed everything. Which light buzzed, which doorknob turned stiff in the lock, which employees left mugs on their desks, lipstick stains half-faded, notes scribbled in margins. He saw without intruding, he fixed without asking. And then there was her. Maya Williams. Her office was always the last one with light bleeding into the hall. She was 32, and the air around her carried both steel and fragility. By day, she was sharp as cut glass, the CEO who walked with clipped strides and eyes that could silence a room. But at night her silhouette softened. He would see her through the frosted glass, shoulders slumped, head bent over documents that seemed to demand more of her than they had any right to. A widow, though Dante only knew they. At from whispers, a woman who carried loss with the quiet dignity of someone who had chosen to keep standing even after the world had tried to fold her. Every night, he lingered just a second longer outside her office. Not enough to be noticed, not enough to be reckless, but enough to see the faint amber glow curling around her figure, making her door look less like an office and more like a sanctuary no one was invited into. She never looked up, not until tonight. The sound of her voice broke the silence like silk slipping across stone. "You think we could start right here?" Dante froze. The mop in his hands hung suspended mid-swipe, a single drop of water sliding off the fibers to hit the marble with a soft tick. His pulse jumped. For a second he wondered if he had imagined it, but then she stepped into the doorway, barefoot, framed by the soft light of her office. Her midnight dress curved against her body, not as an invitation but as if she had forgotten what it was to hide from herself. Her eyes, tired, unguarded, rested on him, not with pity, not with dismissal, but with something more dangerous, recognition. He swallowed hard. "I'm not supposed to talk to tenants." "You're not a janitor tonight," she said, voice low but steady. "You're a man who notices things." Her words pressed against the walls he had built inside himself, walls that had kept him safe for years. He wanted to turn away, finish the floor, let the silence reclaim its hold. But she didn't look away. She waited, her mug clasped in both hands, her voice softening. "You see me." And that was the most forbidden thing of all. The question lingered in the space between them, heavier than the night, sharper than the silence. "Do you think we could start right here?" It was not a flirtation. It was not a game. It was the opening of a door neither of them were supposed to walk through. And yet, in that dim hallway, with amber light painting her in warmth and his own heartbeat pounding like a warning drum, Dante realized he might not be able to keep from stepping inside. The mop was still in his hands. The marble floor still gleamed, but nothing about the night was the same anymore. The next night, Dante tried to convince himself it had been nothing, a trick of exhaustion, a misunderstanding. He had work to do, floors to mop, bins to empty, light bulbs to check. That's all he was supposed to be, the man who erased other people's messes, not someone who lingered in doorways where light spilled like secrets, not someone who mattered. But when he turned the corner to the executive wing, her door was open again. Inside, the light was warmer than the sterile brightness of the halls. 2 cups of tea sat on her desk, steam curling like fingers beckoning him closer. His chest tightened. She had set one for him. She had expected him. Maya Williams was at the window, adjusting the blinds, the city glittering like a scatter of stars behind her. Tonight she wore slate gray silk, sleeves brushing her wrists, neckline soft and unapologetic. Her hair tumbled loose over one shoulder, nothing like the rigid bun she wore during the day. She looked less like the CEO everyone feared and more like a woman who had remembered, for just a moment, what it felt like to live. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said quietly without turning. I wasn't either, Dante answered, his voice rough from holding itself too tight. She turned, eyes searching him with something he couldn't name. But you're here. He nodded. Yeah, I'm here. When she handed him the tea, their fingers didn't touch, but the space between them shifted anyway. He tasted the sugar cube she'd dropped in, just the way he liked it. The detail hit him hard. She noticed him. They stood side by side, drinking in silence. From 25 floors up, Boston shimmered. But in this room, time stilled. Her gaze rested on him again, steady, unblinking. Do you ever get tired of pretending you're not in the room? The question unsettled him. What do you mean? You're careful, Dante. Every move, every word, like you're measuring how much space you're allowed to take. I see it in the way you wait for the elevator to empty before you step in, the way you hold your breath when interns pass by. Like you've already been told you don't belong and now you're just trying not to be reminded again. He swallowed. His instinct was to deflect, to shrink further, but her voice pinned him. He couldn't move away from it. I've learned it's easier that way, he murmured. For who? She asked softly. He looked down at his hands. For everybody. Her eyes didn't waver. And what about you? The silence that followed was heavier than words. He wanted to say she was wrong, that invisibility kept him safe, but she was right. He had been shrinking so long he'd forgotten what it meant to stand. Finally, he muttered, I don't make waves. Her lips curved, a sad smile. But you do leave ripples. The words landed like a stone in water. He stared at her, searching for mockery. There was none, only truth, as dangerous as it was gentle. I don't know what this is, he said at last. Neither do I, Maya admitted, her voice low, but I know it's dangerous. He braced himself. Because of who you are? Or because of what they'll say about me? Her silence was answer enough. She crossed the room slowly, stopping just inches away. Her reflection flickered in the glass behind her, but in front of him, she was real, warm, steady, human. When my husband died, she said, people treated me like glass, breakable, silent, but you, her voice caught, then steadied. You're the first person who looks at me like I'm still solid. The confession wrapped around him like heat and weight. He shifted on his feet, heart thudding. I don't want to be a project. You're not, she said, almost fiercely. I don't want pity. I don't want curiosity. I want truth. Their eyes locked. For once, Dante didn't lower his gaze. Then stay a little longer, she whispered. No uniforms, no business cards, no rules. Just two people in a room. The city pulsed outside, headlights like veins of light. Inside, the silence thickened. He hesitated, then gave the faintest nod. And when she reached for a small black speaker, and Coltrane's jazz curled through the room, neither of them pretended anymore. He took her hand. Her skin was warm. They swayed, barely moving, but enough to feel time shift beneath their feet. You know this doesn't change anything outside this room, he murmured. I know, she breathed. There will be whispers, looks, maybe worse. They'll say I don't belong in your world. Then maybe it's time, she said softly, leaning closer. I stepped into yours. The music lingered, slow and sultry, and in that moment, the man who had mastered invisibility and the woman who had lived behind glass both risked being seen for the first time in years. The building woke differently on Monday, not with sunlight, but with whispers. They slithered through the glass corridors like smoke, curling into break rooms, trickling across Slack channels, untraceable but undeniable. It started with a grainy image, Dante standing in the soft glow of Aya's office doorway, his cart parked just outside, his hand offering something. Maybe a cup, maybe nothing at all. The caption beneath it read, "Looks like CEO Williams has a new after-hours advisor." By the time HR discovered the post and removed it, screenshots had already multiplied like wildfire. Eyes lingered longer when Dante passed, even though no one dared speak to his face. The smirk of an intern, the raised brow of an executive assistant. Each glance sharpened like glass cutting through skin. He had spent years blending into silence, but now the silence itself screamed. Maya noticed it first in the boardroom. Conversations stuttered when she walked in. Colleagues shifted in their seats, their polite smiles tinged with judgment. By lunchtime, she was summoned, just a word, to the HR director's office. The woman leaned forward, hands folded too neatly on the desk. Concerns have been raised, she said carefully. Professional boundaries with maintenance staff. We're not suggesting impropriety, of course, but optics matter. Maya's expression remained unreadable, her legs crossed, her voice level. Are these concerns about tea, she asked coolly, or about skin tone? The director blinked, caught off guard. I don't think it's appropriate to frame it that way. Then maybe, Maya replied. You're not listening clearly enough. That evening her office was dark, the blinds drawn, no tea waiting. Dante paused outside, his chest heavy, fingers tightening around the mop handle. For the first time in weeks, he kept walking. He told himself it was safer, cleaner, better to leave the silence unbroken than risk being the reason her empire cracked. But silence, he learned, could be just as loud as scandal. 2 nights later, while folding shirts at the laundromat on Tremont, his phone buzzed, an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. You don't pick up unknowns, huh? Maya's voice came through, steady but tired. Depends on the night, he said. Well, tonight I could use company, and I don't just mean your mop. He froze, heart stuttering. I'm off duty. I'm not, she said quietly. A pause. Front doors open. Her apartment was nothing like her office. It wasn't glass and steel, it was lived-in warmth. Books stacked unevenly, candles burned down to their stubs, a half-finished painting leaned against the wall. She wore leggings and an oversized shirt, hair pulled into a messy knot, face bare of armor. Human, real. Didn't think you'd come, she murmured. Didn't think you'd ask, he answered, stepping inside. On the floor, takeout boxes waited, chopsticks resting across them. Miles Davis hummed softly in the background. They ate without ceremony, backs against the couch, knees nearly touching. No audience, no rules, just 2 people existing. But even here, the world's claws reached in. They called you a charity project, Maya said suddenly. Her voice was flat, but her eyes burned. Dante looked up slowly. Who? Someone in the office. Not to my face, of course, but enough times that it got back around. He didn't flinch. That's not new. But it's not okay either, she pressed. You don't need to defend me. I'm not defending you, she said, leaning closer. I'm defending us, whatever us means. The word hung between them, trembling. He wanted to push it away, to remind her that us came with consequences, costs she didn't deserve, but her eyes didn't waver. For the first time in years, someone wasn't asking him to shrink, she was asking him to stand. Outside, the city buzzed and gossiped. Inside, they ate noodles in silence, 2 people, daring to share a floor, a song, a secret. The world might call it scandal, but for Dante, it felt like the first time someone had asked him if he wanted anything at all. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. The storm broke on a Friday morning, and it didn't come with thunder. It came with an email. At 10:37 a.m., the entire company's inboxes lit up with the subject line, "Who's cleaning up after Maya?" Attached were the screenshots. The first, Dante in her office doorway. The second, him entering her apartment building late at night. The third, her hand brushing his shoulder. The message was short, barbed with venom, nepotism, or just poor taste. By noon, the office buzzed like a hive split open. HR scrambled. The board sent confidential memos laced with careful phrasing but steeped in judgment. Clients began canceling lunch meetings without explanation. It wasn't loud, it was quieter, crueler, a silence disguised as professionalism. Maya read the email while standing in front of her team, mid-presentation. Her assistant slid the phone into her palm. She scanned the message once, twice. She didn't flinch. She closed her laptop and said, "Let's take 10, folks." Then she walked out. Dante didn't hear until hours later. He was under a church sink on Tremont, wrench in hand, when her name flashed on his phone. "You saw it?" she asked, her voice sharp, breathless. "Yeah," he said. "They're calling it inappropriate. Liability. You want me to tell you to stay away?" He paused, heart hammering. "Do you want me to?" Her silence was ragged, alive. "I don't want you to pay the price alone." "I'm not ashamed, Maya," he said simply. "I know you're not," she whispered. "But I don't want you buried for standing next to me." "Then don't disappear." Her breath shuddered through the line. "I won't." That night, he didn't take the service elevator. He walked straight through the glass lobby, past the startled receptionist, and into the executive corridor. His boots echoed like a declaration. Her door was open. She stood by the window, blazer tossed on the chair, hair loose, the city glowing behind her. "They want me to make a statement," she said without turning. "To apologize, step back." "And?" "I told them no." She faced him now, fire in her eyes. "I'm not stepping back. Not from my job. Not from you." Dante swallowed. "That's a big move. So was walking in here like you belonged. His jaw tightened. What now? Now we stop hiding. She closed the distance between them, her voice steady but low. Let them whisper. Let them stare. We won't shrink. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then his hand found hers, rough against smooth. Their silhouettes reflected in the glass behind them, two figures refusing to disappear. But the firestorm didn't stop at whispers. Within days, numbers in finance turned red. One long-term client transferred their contract to another firm, another quietly postponed. The board's memo shifted from concerns to recommendations. In coded language, they told her to fix this or fade out. Maya sat late in her office, shoulders bowed, staring at rows of losses on the screen. Dante found her like that, heels off, a cold cup of tea forgotten on the desk. They're backing away, she murmured, because of us. He lowered himself onto the couch beside her. So what? You thinking of backing down? She turned, her eyes blazing through exhaustion. Do I look like the backing down type? He studied her. No, but you look tired. I am, she admitted softly. Not from the work, from the pretending. I built a cage and called it a career. Turns out it's just glass. His hand found hers again. Then maybe it's time to stop performing for people who only clap when it benefits them. Her head dropped to his shoulder. How do you stay so steady? I don't, he said. I just learned how to be still in the middle of noise. They stayed that way, breathing in tandem, the storm rattling outside the windows. The next morning, Maya drafted a letter. It wasn't long, plain font, no spin, no apology. Some will call this rebellion. But rebellion implies chaos. What we're building is something else. Structure, honesty, courage. If seeing a black man beside a white woman in 2025 still stirs outrage, maybe the problem isn't the couple. Maybe it's the lens we refuse to clean. She signed her name and sent it. Within an hour, the letter went viral. Local blogs shared it, then design magazines. Then a late-night host quoted it on air. Suddenly, they weren't a scandal anymore. They were a statement. But statements come with enemies. Because while strangers online rallied behind them, one name appeared quietly in city files, stamped across a property ledger. Walter Crenshaw, developer, magnate, owner of their lease, and his lawyers had already begun drawing up the paperwork. Walter Crenshaw didn't knock when he came. Men like him never did. They arrived with polished shoes and perfected smiles, the kind that pretended to offer opportunity while already plotting the burial. He stepped into the studio one afternoon, tall and lean, hair cut to boardroom precision. His suit was the kind that whispered money in every stitch. Behind him, a young assistant trailed, head bowed, fingers tapping nervously against a tablet. Maya met him in paint-stained overalls, a streak of cobalt blue still drying on her cheek. She crossed her arms. I don't do suits on weekdays. Walter chuckled as though she had told a joke. Miss Williams, your reputation precedes you. You've built something remarkable here. And frankly, this community is lucky to have you. But you've got to think bigger. Imagine this space, replicated inside a flagship development, your name in lights. With the right partners, you could do more than murals. I don't want my name in lights, she said coolly. I want kids on this street to know beauty doesn't need permission. His smile faltered for the first time. You're sitting on prime commercial frontage. My firm is offering you generous compensation to dissolve the lease early. Take the win. Build somewhere else. Let me elevate the neighborhood's potential. Dante stepped from the back, wiping his hands on a rag, his eyes locked on Walter. And by elevate, you mean erase. Walter's gaze flicked to him, narrowing slightly. Mr. Carter, still tinkering, I see. I fix things, Dante said evenly, and I recognize rot when I smell it. The silence turned sharp. Walter clapped his hands once, too loudly. Well, I see where this is going, but I'll warn you both. Real estate is a machine. Sentimentality doesn't slow it down. If you're still here in 30 days, you'll be here illegally. He turned, his assistant scrambling to keep pace as they left. The studio air felt heavier when the door shut. Maya exhaled. He's not bluffing. No, Dante said, but he's betting we'll fold. That night they sat on the rooftop, the city sprawled out beneath them. Rain clouds gathered on the horizon, bruised and heavy. Maya's knees pulled close to her chest. You ever lose something you fought for? Dante's voice was low. Yeah, my mother's house. After she died, the city sold it for unpaid taxes. She lived there 38 years, just gone. Maya's jaw tightened. I won't let that happen here. Neither of them noticed the man in the dark. Coat across the street, phone pressed to his ear. watching. By the end of the week, the threats had teeth. A city inspector arrived unannounced, claiming zoning irregularities. Their bank account was frozen pending safety violation reviews. Anonymous envelopes appeared under their doors. Photos of Maya walking home, Dante locking the studio gate, the mural half covered in spray paint. Then came the arrest. Dante was at the studio late, repairing a faulty breaker, when he caught a man spraying black paint across the mural. Dante told him to stop. The man swung first. Dante blocked the hit but never struck back. Still, when the police arrived minutes later, the man pointed at Dante. "He threatened me." The words carried poison. They didn't need proof. The cuffs clicked too easily. Maya arrived at the precinct breathless, her heels echoing against the tile. When the officer led her to the interrogation room, Dante sat at the steel table, his hands clasped, his jaw locked in contained rage. "What happened?" she demanded. "Some guy says I threatened him. He was painting over our wall. I told him to stop." "You didn't hit him?" "Didn't need to, but he said I looked threatening." The phrase hung like smoke, familiar and vile. Maya's eyes hardened. "Crenshaw's pulling strings." Dante met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "That man at the mural wasn't just watching us. He was coordinating. This isn't random. It's war." And for the first time, Maya felt it in her bones. They weren't fighting whispers anymore. They were up against a machine. The municipal hearing room smelled faintly of old paper and fluorescent hum. Rows of gray chairs lined the space, each one filled. Neighbors, veterans, children in their Sunday best, teachers clutching folded notes. Maya and Dante walked in together, no lawyers, no entourage, just presence. Walter Crenshaw arrived moments later, flanked by two attorneys in matching suits. His smile was as sharp as his cufflinks, confident in the way only men who had never been told no could be. He didn't look at Maya when he passed her. He didn't need to. His message was in the polished smirk, the heavy portfolio his assistant carried, the way his eyes skimmed Dante with practiced dismissal. The hearing began with his lawyer's voice, smooth, polished, rehearsed. "This property is valuable commercial frontage. Our client's proposed development would generate jobs, tax revenue, and elevate the neighborhood's economic standing. This is an opportunity for growth, for progress." Progress. The word curdled in Dante's stomach. He thought of his mother's house sold as progress, of murals painted over in gray, of silence disguised as professionalism. Then it was Maya's turn. She didn't stand behind the podium. She stood in the center of the room, her voice steady but raw. "I don't have slides or spreadsheets," she began, "but I do have stories. This studio isn't just a business. It's a place where children painted their first walls, where veterans taught skills they thought the world had forgotten, where mothers brought heaters to be fixed so their kids wouldn't sleep cold. If you erase this, you're not making room for progress. You're bulldozing memory." One by one, people stood beside her. A veteran with trembling hands. A teenager who said the mural kept him off the streets. A mother whose autistic child spoke his first words in a music circle held in their studio. Each voice layered on the last, a rising tide too heavy to ignore. Even the council shifted, glancing at one another. When it ended, the silence was not dismissive. It was reverent. For the first time, Walter Crenshaw seemed smaller. The council recessed, decision postponed until Monday. The crowd spilled onto the sidewalk, buzzing. Maya exhaled for the first time all week. "We showed up," she whispered. "We always do," Dante replied. Sunlight cut sharp angles across his jaw. She looked at him then, not as a CEO, not as a widow, but as someone who'd chosen to stay standing because he refused to let her shrink. "Thank you for not walking away," she murmured. "Wasn't an option," he said simply. They didn't see the man across the street, dark coat, phone pressed to his ear, watching, waiting. That night, Maya returned home to find a plain envelope slipped under her door. No stamp, no handwriting, just weight. Inside were photographs. One of her walking alone, coat pulled tight, head bent. One of Dante locking the studio gate. One of the mural, half covered in black spray paint again. But this time, there was a note. A typed page, crisp, precise. "You think you're winning. But this was never about the mural. It was about you. Someone close to you has already chosen their side. Check your boardroom before you check the street." Her blood chilled. Hands trembling, she dialed Dante. He answered on the first ring. "You free?" she asked, voice unsteady. "Always." When he arrived, she pressed the letter into his hands. His jaw hardened as he read. His eyes lifted to hers, dark and steady. "This isn't just Crenshaw. This is someone inside. Maya's breath caught. Faces flashed through her mind. Colleagues, board members, people she had trusted. The betrayal sliced deeper than Crenshaw's threats ever could. "They want to bury us," she whispered, her voice breaking. Dante stepped closer, his palm pressing firmly against her back, grounding her. "Then they don't know what roots look like." Her eyes burned, but she didn't look away. Outside, rain pressed against the glass, streaking down like tears. Inside, they stood in the kind of silence that was not surrender, but defiance. Because the firestorm wasn't over. The real war had only just revealed its face, and it wasn't only across the street. It was in the rooms Maya had thought she controlled. And when Monday came, she knew the council's vote would be only the beginning.